Recently, we've seen the number of young people infected with COVID-19 surpass the number of older people who have tested positive. Tonight, we'll dig deeper into the numbers.
Yesterday, the governor said the majority of the initial unemployment claims have been paid, but there are still a lot of people waiting on benefits. Hear from some people who are frustrated over the lack of results.
And it's still not clear what education will look like in the fall compared to a normal school year. How people at Wdky are preparing.
The Fox 56 10 o'clock news starts now.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us. Governor Beshear has made a change to his phased reopening plan. The travel ban will now expire sooner than expected on May 22nd.
And groups of 10 people or less will be able to gather then as well. That's in time for Memorial Day weekend. May 22nd will be when restaurants can reopen with limited seating and new guidelines. Governor Beshear also says it's for gatherings of 10 or fewer. The governor says no buffets or potlucks should take place, and families not of the same households should stay 6 feet apart. He says it's important for children to be separated from other kids from other families.
If you have family that lives close by that's coming in for Memorial Day, again, you can socially distance. They don't fall into the vulnerable categories. You know, that's at a place that we're now at, and we're seeing a number of these travel bans expiring. It was very important when we put it into place. When we had cases doubling or tripling, over a period of days or weeks. We don't have that now. But let's remember, if we do have a spike, then we may have to take some of these steps again.
Lieutenant Governor Coleman talked today about the Team Kentucky Fund going live at 8 tomorrow morning with an application for those who lost 50% of their income because of job loss. That will be on the Team Kentucky website.
More younger adults in Kentucky are testing positive for COVID-19, but doctors say that increase in numbers doesn't tell the whole story.
Victor Puente tells us why the state is seeing more people in younger age groups receiving positive test results.
Over the past few weeks, the number of Kentuckians in their 20s who have tested positive for COVID-19 has risen higher than those in their 60s or 70s. These are the numbers up through yesterday. Medical experts say they don't believe more young people are getting infected, but that our statewide testing is finally giving us a more accurate picture of who has COVID-19.
We're expanding and catching the populations that we didn't naturally get before. Before we were testing higher risk populations, those who presented to the emergency department, those who presented for admission to the hospital.
With Governor Andy Beshear encouraging all Kentuckians to get tested, those numbers should continue to rise. Stanton says that doesn't tell the whole story.
And so by expanding testing, we're naturally going to pick up those numbers. And so the number positive are going to go up. But I think we're going to still continue to see the numbers of admissions and deaths actually to continue to drop off.
While younger people are a smaller percentage of those who get seriously ill, it can still happen. A 31-year-old from Powell County told me he was treated for an upper respiratory infection, but a week later ended up in the hospital being treated for COVID-19.
It feels like an elephant is kind of standing on your chest, and it's not really comfortable.
Merriman told me he considered himself lucky to have only spent one night in the hospital.
It doesn't pick and choose who it's going to affect, so you honestly just don't know. It can be any age. I never thought that I would have contracted it at all.
Dr. Stanton says another benefit to expanded testing is alerting those who may have it but aren't showing symptoms that they shouldn't be in contact with anyone.
It's not over. I think we're all over it, but it's not over.
In Lexington, Victor Puente, Fox 56 10 o'clock news.
In Kentucky, more people in their 40s are infected than any other age group.
229 inmates at the Federal Medical Center in Lexington have tested positive for COVID-19. That includes 63 new cases since yesterday. One inmate, a 59-year-old man, died earlier this week from the virus. The jump in cases inside the federal facility raises Lexington's total to 529. That's up 72 from yesterday. 43% of the city's cases are from inside the federal prison.
It's been more than 2 months since some Kentuckians have received a paycheck. Last week, more than 69,000 additional unemployment claims were filed. But some who filed all the way back in mid-March say they've yet to receive any money. Phil Pendleton talked to a Southern Kentucky man who says despite doing everything right, he feels like he's doing it all wrong.
After losing his job March 15th, Diedrich Polk said he was finally able to get his claim approved on April 5th.
Said it's been approved, but no checks released. So it's doing the same thing every 2 weeks. It's saying that these weeks are going in. I'm getting credit for these weeks, but nothing.
Throughout the process, he says he's only spoken to a person once, and that person was no help because they said they were not qualified.
I don't understand, why is there one person, tier 1, who can answer a phone but can't give you any information? That seems like a wasted time, just having somebody to pick up the phone and say, well, oh, we have to pass you on to somebody else.
What we've learned through this process is you can't solve something just by throwing more people at them. You got to get good people and the right people. We've learned a little bit of that in answering the phones in unemployment.
The governor told us yesterday that they have completed 90% of the unemployment claims from late March into early April. However, we continue to get phone calls and emails and messages from people who say that they believe they are doing every single thing right and filling out their claims, but still not getting paid. And Polk says he's getting mixed signals on why he still has not received a payment.
But as of today, on my thing, everything is still the same. It says there's no issue with my identity, none of that. But there's still no check being released.
The governor said Thursday that red tape with federal government bureaucracy could be behind some of these current problems. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, the Fox 56 10 o'clock news.
As of May 9th, state officials say more than 742,000 Kentuckians had filed unemployment claims.
COVID-19 has forced many industries to downsize or furlough their workers, but for at-home caregivers, the need has grown. Bluegrass Home Care Services in Nicholasville says they have seen an explosion in need. The service helps people with daily tasks, from getting dressed to even going shopping. They say the need has grown so much, they're trying to hire even more home caregivers to help.
I feel like their job is one that, first of all, doesn't get a lot of recognition, but they're so vital to people's lives. They can be the only connection that people have to the outside world.
The service says interest has poured in, but many people don't show up to their interviews. The group has also created all new policies to protect people from the virus.
Well, if you like today, you'll like tomorrow, as long as we can keep the storms away.
Chris Bailey is here to tell us more about this sudden jump into some summer-like weather. Hey, Chris.
Well, this was some of the good stuff today, huh? We had temperatures that were 30 degrees warmer, guys, today than what we had yesterday. Late evening temperatures still upper 60s to low 70s. We did have a little isolated shower and thunderstorm action, he says, as expected, across parts of southern southeastern Kentucky. That stuff dissipating after the loss of the sun this evening, sun setting and leading to the drying sky. Still lots of moisture coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. Don't expect a big drop in your thermometer tonight. You're going to stay into the low and mid 60s for the better part of the overnight. Big time thunderstorms ongoing here across parts of Ohio, Indiana, into Illinois, and with a cold front to the northwest of us, pretty good line of some thunderstorms there. See this moisture plume coming right up the Mississippi River. That is into Kentucky. So that's why today we had not only the warmer air, but it felt a little more humid. That humidity is going to increase into the day tomorrow. Let's look at the future radar. Fair amount of clouds around in the morning. So it's a mix of sun and clouds tomorrow. Winds are cranking. You may have gusts tomorrow 30, 35 miles an hour. An isolated shower storm possible early. Then watch what happens by tomorrow evening. Future radar 5 o'clock. Line of some thunderstorms. It tries to break up a little bit into parts of central Kentucky as the evening wears on. So, guys, that's what we're talking about here. This isn't anything that is just widespread, more the scattered variety type thunderstorm action into the weekend.
All right, thank you, Chris. Well, the University of Kentucky has unveiled 4 scenario reports showing what a fall semester could look like.
And while many of them do involve students on campus, at least for part of the time, they also recommend some major changes to the way things are done. Garrett Weimer explains what's next.
While campus is always quieter this time of year, there are still questions about what it will look like in the fall.
There's a lot of students walking around. It's kind of hard to keep your distance.
Groups of UK faculty, staff, and students have helped put together 4 potential plans for the fall semester. 1, a semester that starts on time and in person. A second that starts late in person, then moves online. A third that starts online, moves to in person, then could end or continue online. And a fourth that's online for the entire semester. UK officials are asking for feedback on the proposals. But the plans also recommend significant changes for on-campus operations in the event of in-person classes for any period of time this fall. Things like an alternating attendance policy when social distancing can't be achieved, encouraging outdoor classes, staggering and extending transition time between classes, and redesigning classrooms and other spaces to accommodate safety guidelines. Plans also include changes to dining halls and housing. Campus leaders hope to unveil a final campus restart plan next month. Meanwhile, a group of researchers and experts continues to work on addressing health issues like screening, testing, and contact tracing. Garrett Weimer, the Fox 56 10 o'clock news.
Fayette County Public Schools are working with several community partners to give graduating seniors a one-of-a-kind celebration. School leaders say safety is the primary concern for the celebration. On May 27th, the last day of school, the district is collaborating with City Center and iHeartRadio to light up downtown with a musical light show tribute. On May 28th and 29th, seniors will be honored with a reverse parade at the Kentucky Horse Park. During the first week of June, the district's 6 large high schools will hold on-campus drive-through diploma distribution for students and families. Graduation videos are also being assembled for each of the district's 6 high schools. These virtual ceremonies will air in early June on the district's educational television station.
The YMCA will begin a limited reopening on June 1st. That's when fitness centers are allowed to reopen under Governor Beshear's plan. YMCA of Central Kentucky says only some locations will be open with a limit on the number of members at the facility. There will be no group exercise classes and social distancing measures will be in place for equipment.
4th of July celebrations could change, and that has city leaders at the drawing board. Up next, the changes Richmond is planning ahead of Independence Day.
And retail stores set to reopen in Kentucky next week. Coming up, details about the new restrictions aimed at protecting customers.
Warm temperatures are going to carry us right on into the weekend. Storm chances, though, are going to begin to increase, too. We'll put a track on those for you on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
A lot of Kentuckians are wondering what summer holidays will look like.
City leaders in Richmond say the 4th of July will look different, but as Shelby Lofton explains, it will be celebrated.
Starting in the afternoon of July 4th, Lake Reba gets pretty busy.
Thousands of folks have come to participate, and then at the very climax of the night, to have the fireworks displayed.
But there's a lot that leads up to the big light show.
There are vendors who are here. Folks are doing things over at the water park.
This year, that can't be happening. Mayor Robert Blythe says the city will follow social distancing rules.
We're not going to provide the opportunity or the occasion for folks to gather on the grounds.
And as for how people will be able to watch the fireworks, that's up in the air.
There's no pun intended.
Mayor Blythe says July 4th is a major tourist attraction for Richmond.
Folks who come into town will buy gas. If they didn't eat here at a vendor, they may stop at one of the fast food restaurants as they get ready to go home. Some might even stay overnight.
But he thinks this decision may not be as unpopular as people might think.
By the 1st of July, most of us will still not be that comfortable to gather in large groups.
He says this is a tradition that people need now more than ever. Their view might just look a little different this year. In Richmond, Shelby Lofton for the Fox 56 10 o'clock news.
And keep an eye out. The mayor says he should be releasing final plans very soon.
After weeks of being closed, the Stony Cove recreational area is reopening at Cave Run Lake tomorrow. Bath County Judge Executive Bobby Rogers says restrictions will be in place and they'll be enforcing social distancing. No more than 10 people will be allowed together. Rogers says if people don't follow the new rules, they'll be forced to close again.
Had it not been for the picnic areas and the way people were packing in there earlier on, it would have never been closed anyway. It's just because it was in the cluster with the trail and the picnic area and the beach that it got it to this level.
The picnic areas will remain closed until June 1st. Several boat ramps will also remain closed at Cave Run Lake.
Upper 70s, low 80s for the majority of the area today with a partly cloudy sky. The winds were a little gusty in southern southeastern Kentucky. Scattered thunderstorm or two. Live look from the tower cam looking into downtown Lexington. High 60s, low 70s as of right now. And don't expect a big drop in that thermometer tonight with a little veil of some high thin clouds over top of us. A southwest wind that's going to continue to crank that thermometer is going to stay for the most part above 60 degrees all night long. Numbers now versus numbers last night at this time is 20 degrees toastier into Moorhead. 15 Lexington, 17 across Richmond. Look at Louisville, the double deuce on top of us. 22 degrees warmer than at this same point last night. Fox radar picture. Those spotty thunderstorms across the southeast going by the wayside, broaden out the view, and you can see this tropical plume of moisture that is coming out of the central Gulf of Mexico. It is right up the Mississippi River and now east of the Mississippi. So tomorrow going to be a little more on the humid side into Kentucky with that southerly flow ahead of a cold front that can produce a late day thunderstorm or two. Can we spike an isolated storm early tomorrow afternoon? It's possible. Most of us, though, are in pretty good shape with, again, give or take a few degrees on either side of 80, maybe 81, 82. If you get a little more sunshine, you get some cloud cover, you'll struggle all the way to 78 degrees. I say that in jest. We're going to see those winds, though, that can gust up tomorrow at around 30, 35 miles per hour. So out the door in the morning, clouds increasing. Look at the temperatures. You're talking mid 60s. There you go with that small risk for an isolated thunderstorm. And then into the afternoon, we break out into some sun. You see those low 80s. We're going to fire up a line of some thunderstorms, though, tomorrow evening along and west of the Ohio River. Now, that'll come calling middle of the evening into parts of central Kentucky, and I can't rule out a strong or local severe thunderstorm with that. We'll keep an eye on it. It's been a quiet May, obviously, in terms of severe weather. It should be our peak severe weather month, but Mother Nature said, I'm just going to throw frost and freeze threats at you all month long. Well, up until today, that is. 7 o'clock Saturday morning. Temperatures again into the 60s by the afternoon. That's a little undercooked. I think most of us are low 80s with a threat for a thunderstorm. Notice how that dies away. Then as we go into Sunday, we'll focus on a cold front that will drop in from northwest to southeast. So an increase in the scattered thunderstorm risk later you get into the day, but those temperatures low and mid 80s coming up on Sunday. Then we get into a pattern from Sunday night and into Monday with this system that is dropping in from the northwest. This thing is going to become like a bad house guest, just doesn't know when to leave. So early next week, it's going to sit, it's going to spin, and it's going to park itself right over top of the lower Ohio Valley. We hope we can get that out of here before you get into Wednesday, but it may be a close call. So the trend for early next week has changed a little bit. How about we just focus on the weekend, 80 to 85? We have dropped the numbers down into the 60s for a couple of days into late Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. But overall, once that gets out of here, we should be right back into a similar pattern, guys, heading into Memorial Day weekend compared to what we're going to see over the next few days.
Yeah, none of those temperatures are that bad.
No more frost threats either.
We like it.
Well, we are all missing our families right now during quarantine.
But one family found a way to send hugs and share the love. That's next in the Spotlight tonight. Welcome back. A creative way to give a hug is in the Spotlight tonight.
It has been said that love knows no bounds, and one Illinois family proves that to be true. With a little bit of ingenuity and some plastic, an 85-year-old great-grandmother can now hug her loved ones for the first time in months. Rose Gagnon's granddaughter built a hug time machine, allowing her kids to safely wrap in their great-grandmother's embrace. All it took to build was a PVC pipe, some plastic from a window insulator kit, double-sided tape, and duct tape. Family says their hug time device has even gotten them some international attention.
No doubt. She could sell that. A lot of people would like to have that.
I'd walk into a nail salon so quick with that thing on. Just put my hands up.
A lot of uses.
Could solve a lot of problems.
Well, after weeks of home confinement in New Zealand, some people just want a decent haircut. We can all relate to that, right? Mm-hmm. Well, let's hope our lines don't look like this. A number of customers lined up outside barbershops in Auckland at midnight Thursday. That's the day when certain businesses were officially allowed to reopen. New Zealand has been among the most aggressive in trying to contain the virus and has seen a sharp decline in new cases over the past months.
I know you're awaiting your haircut.
I would go at midnight as long as the barber was awake.
That's true. Very true. I don't know. You might not want to be sleepy with the shears in his
That's
hand.
the thing.
Meanwhile, a barbershop customer in Colorado was so grateful to be back in the chair, he let the workers know just how much. Saturday was the first day Floyd's barbershop was allowed to open its doors. At least one customer felt that the experience was worth far more than the $27 he paid for his cut.
On Saturday, we had a gentleman walk in, first-time client, gets a haircut. On his way out, he tips the stylist $2,500. He tips the manager $1,000. He tips the front desk $500.
Okay, so I'm not great at math, but I think that adds up to $4,000, and he wasn't done. Before leaving, he asked how many other people worked in the shop. Then he went to the ATM, came back, and gave everyone else $100 for a grand total of $5,800.
That's a great first-time customer. I bet before he left, he said, "Can we go ahead and book your next appointment?"
Exactly. Hopefully, he was happy with his haircut.
Yeah, he must have been.
That's what's in the spotlight tonight.
Well, many businesses have struggled during the pandemic, some even having to shut their doors for good.
Ahead, we'll show you one Central Kentucky hardware store taking advantage of the new normal.
You're watching the Fox 56 10 o'clock news with Marvin Bartlett, Kristen Flom, Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey, and Lee K. Howard on sports.
Welcome back. We are less than a week away from retail businesses reopening in Kentucky.
But the May 20th date comes with a list of guidelines for those stores to follow. Olivia Russell explains what shoppers will see when the doors are open.
As Kentucky is moving toward reopening, people will finally have the chance to shop till they drop again.
I sure hope so. I definitely think that people are ready to get out.
The new Healthy at Work guidelines will allow retail businesses to reopen, but only at 33% capacity. Joe Kawaja from Kentucky Branded points out that most retail stores usually aren't too packed anyway.
This time of year is a little slower, so we shouldn't have a problem keeping that capacity at what it needs to be.
Kawaja is one of the many business owners who's training staff to properly follow the government's guidelines.
So we've been bringing people back gradually, and we're just training them on how to handle each person that walks in the door.
As foot traffic increases, so will the cleaning. The state recommends barriers at the cash registers, and dressing rooms will be sanitized after each use. Even the pen you touch to sign a receipt needs to be cleaned.
We're just trying to make sure that people are safe, so we're training our associates on each step of keeping the public safe. Mask, hand washing, keeping people the right feet apart.
But Kawaja says the changes are worth it to finally see some smiling shoppers again. Well, smiling under the masks. In Lexington, Olivia Russell for the Fox 56 10 o'clock news.
Stores are also encouraged to continue offering sales online and over the phone. No bulk bins or sampling is allowed. Any item tried on must be sanitized before being returned to the floor. And shopping carts must be cleaned after each use.
So many businesses have been hit hard by the pandemic, but a Lexington hardware store has found a way to not only survive, but thrive in the tough conditions. Shelby Smithson talked to the owners who just took over the business months before the pandemic.
Taking over a new business is difficult enough, but imagine being hit by a global pandemic just months after opening.
We had to kind of switch gears just a little bit to make it work.
John and Lisa Justice are continuing the legacy of Chevy Chase Hardware, a local hardware store that's been in business since 1946. But as more customers started being healthy at home, they stocked up on some new tools.
We worked with Bluegrass Distillery in getting hand sanitizer. We worked with different companies to get rubber gloves, green light bulbs, and everything that someone would need to stay safe.
So now that businesses are transitioning into Healthy at Work, they're turning to Chevy Chase Hardware to get the supplies they need to fulfill the governor's requirements for reopening.
We have, drove to Columbus, Ohio, and different locations to pick up product just to be sure that we had it here on the shelf and that we didn't run out.
finding a new niche to serve their customers' needs now and hoping to be their go-to for hardware needs in the future.
Now they know where we're located at, and hopefully they do come back and we can, earn their business in the hardware business.
In Lexington, Shelby Smithson for the Fox 56 10 o'clock news.
Chevy Chase Hardware is also offering curbside service for customers who feel more comfortable waiting in their cars.
The Lexington Public Library says its first branch will open next month for curbside pickup. Beginning June 8th, you can check out items online and pick them up at the East Side branch. Library staff will be wearing masks and gloves. The library says people can check out up to 50 items at a time, and for now those items will stay checked out until further notice.
I am thrilled. I just cruise the library waiting for it to open. It's one of my favorite places. I know I'm a total nerd, maybe I don't read my Kindle enough, but I like a hard, solid book.
Leaders say they hope to expand curbside service to other library branches. You can stay up to date with all the latest COVID-19 coverage on our website, foxlexington.com.
A volunteer firefighter from Lincoln County is accused of arson. State police arrested Jeffrey Naus. They say 2 fires, one of them in April and one in May, were set on purpose. Police say they interviewed Naus and he admitted to setting them. They say he was a volunteer for the Lincoln County Volunteer Fire Department. He's charged with 2 counts of arson.
We now know the name of the woman who died in a crash in Jessamine County. The coroner identified her as 56-year-old Gidget Whitehouse of Boyle County. The crash happened yesterday on Highway 169 at Keene Road. Investigators are still working to find out how the crash happened. And we've also learned the names of the 2 people who died in a fire in Robertson County. State police say 41-year-old Amanda Pope Joy of Indiana and 45-year-old John Workman of Mount Olivet died Monday. The fire happened at a home on US 62. No foul play is suspected. Investigators are still looking into the cause of the fire.
The death of a Louisville EMT is gaining national attention. Louisville Metro Police shot and killed Breonna Taylor during a raid last month. Mayor Greg Fisher says shooting investigations involving police do take time, but he's reached out to the Attorney General, Governor Beshear, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Governor Beshear is calling for the investigation to be reviewed.
Progress is being made on the destruction of 500 tons of deadly nerve agents at the Bluegrass Army Depot. According to the facility, 28 tons of GB agent, also known as sarin, have been destroyed. A project manager says this marks the complete destruction of a type of chemical weapon from the U.S. stockpile. Richmond Mayor Robert Blythe says after millions of dollars spent on the project, he's pleased this is all headed in the right direction. But he says the new concern is destroying these dangerous weapons coupled with the threat of COVID-19.
It concerns, certainly, that we're destroying these weapons in the context of this coronavirus pandemic. Who's coming to work?
VX agent and mustard gas still need to be neutralized. Those have been in Madison County since World War II.
It is National Hospital Week, and now more than ever, it gives us a chance to give thanks to our hospital and frontline workers fighting COVID-19.
The Kentucky Hospital Association shared this message from UK coach John Calipari this morning.
I want to thank all the healthcare workers in hospitals across the state of Kentucky. And thanks to all the frontline staff for what you've done through this pandemic and all that you've done to take care of all of us. Thank you.
And we all echo
that for sure.
Well, the U.S. government says nearly 3 million more Americans filed for first-time unemployment benefits last week. Next in News Notes, how Kentucky measures up to other states' unemployment rates.
And later, soft drink sales are down. Why a new report could be more bad news for the industry, and 5 things to know before you go to bed.
Kentucky has had the highest unemployment rate in the country, with the pandemic putting nearly a third of the state's labor force out of work.
That tops tonight's Fox 56 News Notes. In Kentucky, 1 in 3 workers are out of a job right now. The state's workforce now has the highest share of unemployment claims in the U.S., according to the Labor Department. One reason, Governor Andy Beshear telling people to file, and early. The manufacturing industry also plays a role. Nearly 13% of the workforce, higher than the national average, and the shutdown of several big companies put a strain on employees.
An internal memo by Southwest Airlines tells flight crews not to stop passengers from boarding if they refuse to wear a mask. It states, quote, "We will not deny boarding solely based on a customer's refusal to wear a face covering." It says flight attendants should approach the situation with empathy and respect. The airline tells flight attendants to inform customers of the policy and ask them to comply, but not enforce it. Southwest's official policy calls wearing a mask a requirement, but does not address what happens when a customer refuses to wear one.
The International Olympic Committee says postponing the Tokyo 2020 Games will probably cost the organization up to $800 million. The 2020 Olympics were slated to start in July, but were postponed until July of 2021 because of the pandemic. The IOC president would not talk about a possible further delay to the Games. He said he did not want to, quote, fuel any speculation of any future development.
A furniture manufacturer is recalling a chest of drawers sold at many of the nation's largest retailers. This chest of drawers made by Wdky can tip over and injure or kill children. Walmart, Amazon, Wayfair, Home Depot, and other retailers sold the item between July of 2017 and April of this year. Owners should contact Wdky for a free anchoring kit designed to keep the furniture from tipping. They can also request a refund for the item.
Coming up in sports, the SEC sets a date to discuss reopening on-campus athletics facilities.
As a Kentucky
Plus, see how one local
might have
sports
been
talk radio host is doing his job from the comfort of his own garage. That's coming up in the Fox 56 Sports Extra.
Well, thermometers around 80 this afternoon for the first time since really the first couple of days of May. And since then, we had been in a prolonged stretch of just absolutely brutal cold for this time of year. Well, nothing brutal about today. It's upper 60s, low 70s as of now. Tomorrow, very much like today, into the 60s to start things out around 8 o'clock. There's an isolated thunderstorm possible through noontime. A little better shot late afternoon and evening with a line of some thunderstorms that'll drop in from the north and northwest. Temperatures, though, tomorrow, upper 70s, low 80s, about where we were earlier today. Fox radar picture, nothing showing up. Spotty thunderstorms across the south and southeast tonight. Most of the action is across the northern Ohio Valley. Big-time boomers around Columbus earlier in the day. You got some thunderstorms northern parts of Indiana. Look at that line of some strong and severe thunderstorms into parts of Iowa to the west of Chicago. That is a line that will diminish somewhat, but it may fire back up before tomorrow is through on this strong southerly flow out of the Gulf. Let's follow the future radar. Through the remainder of the overnight, things are calm, things are quiet. Little cloud cover will begin to increase. It's 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. You can see that line of thunderstorms west of Chicago now does a little disappearing act as it gets toward Indianapolis around noon. Out ahead of this, just a small chance for an isolated thunderstorm. But then late afternoon into the early part of tomorrow evening, we are going to see this line try to fire back up as it makes its way a little farther to the south into our part of the world. But again, it's going to have a struggle in maintaining squall line forms. We may see the best energy go to the northeast of us and then hang back to the southwest. So it may be a little split that is ongoing with that line of thunderstorms. 7-day forecast tomorrow, just a late day isolated thunderstorm. Best chances tomorrow evening at 80, low 80s on Saturday. Sunday's the warmest day at 85. Better chance for some storms by Sunday night into Monday, and from there it's a system that'll knock our temperatures down for a couple of days early next week.
Time now for the Fox 56 Sports Extra.
Many of us have learned to adapt to a new working environment these days, and recently I came across a local sports talk radio host who's getting his job done with an ironing board and a pair of slippers.
The garage is open for business, and the Big Blue Insider on the air. Welcome to the show. Another one of our socially distanced programs, but we're glad to have you alongside Dick Gabriel.
During this social distancing time, it seems almost everyone has relocated to their homes.
As a Kentucky Wildcat, what might have been with the tournament,
and that includes sports talk radio hosts like Dick Gabriel.
I grabbed the closest table, I grabbed an old chair, the ironing board was there, that's holding my equipment. We do have a lot to cover tonight.
5 nights a week from 6 to 8, Gabriel hosts the Big Blue Insider on 630 WLAP in Lexington.
Yeah, I would say Magic Johnson belongs. We have a great lead-in, Andy Bashir. And of course people are hanging on his every word. He's doing a great job. And he's on just before our show.
He's joined on the show by co-hosts Aaron Gershon and Billy Rutledge, all three broadcasting from different locations.
I don't like not being able to make eye contact with those guys, but we do so many interviews on the phone anyway, we're getting through it.
One way they're getting through it is with interviews from current and former athletes.
The good news is everybody's home. You can get people on the phone and they're bored out of their mind, so they don't mind talking sports. And Kyle Macy hit huge free throws.
And like many who are now working from home, Gabriel has found one major positive: not getting dressed up for work.
For the record, I'm wearing pants. I am wearing slippers. I insist on wearing slippers while I do the show because I can. We're back in just a minute. It's the Big Blue Insider on 630 WLAP.
All right, keep rocking those slippers, Dick Gabriel. Love that there. All right. Well, ever since the coronavirus pandemic shut down campus athletic facilities back in March, the Southeastern Conference has been pointing toward June 1st as a potential reopening date. And according to multiple reports this evening, the SEC presidents and chancellors are scheduled to vote May the 22nd on whether to allow their schools to open athletic facilities to athletes for voluntary workouts. Now, the vote would either allow the players to access the facilities starting on June the 1st or extend the currently imposed suspension on athletic facilities. A vote, of course, to allow athletes back in June would certainly be a huge step towards starting the fall on time. And racing at Churchill Downs begins this weekend, and Wednesday was the first day of training on the track for the horses. Approximately 700 horses have returned to Churchill since the stable area opened on Monday. Racing will resume on Saturday, but no fans will be allowed to attend. And that is a look at sports. Stay tuned for 5 things to know before you go to bed coming up next, including why there's no love for this lizard in Georgia, why officials say it should be shot on sight.
A deal on airline tickets, identifying UFOs, and a lizard on the most wanted list.
Here are 5 things to know before you go to bed. Gulping down even one sugary drink could put you at risk for cardiovascular disease. Researchers interviewed more than 100,000 women over the course of 2 decades. When the study started, none of them had been diagnosed with heart disease, stroke, or diabetes. But based on their answers over time, researchers found that drinking 1 or more servings of a sugary drink per day was associated with a 20% greater likelihood of having cardiovascular disease.
A tempting offer for those itching to travel again. Southwest Airlines is offering one-way fares starting at $49. It covers travel between May 26th through August 31st. The promotion comes as airlines struggle to fill seats during the coronavirus pandemic.
A South Carolina restaurant has a unique way to enforce social distancing. Its dining room is packed with strategically placed dolls. With dine-in service available at Open Hearth for the first time since March, the owners wanted to make the restaurant look as full as they could. So they ordered 10 blow-up dolls and dressed them up like patrons.
Newly released reports suggest the UFO videos that the Pentagon released in April could show drones. The Pentagon has released hazard reports describing the unknown aircraft as unmanned aerial systems, the Pentagon's official name for drones. Even if the flying objects are drones, the military has not been able to identify who operated them.
First, there were murder hornets. Now there's the Argentine black and white tegus. Georgia officials are working to completely eradicate the invasive lizard, which they say poses a major threat to some of the state's native wildlife. The lizards grow to about 4 feet and will eat the eggs of ground nesting birds and reptiles. They're native to South America. There you go, 5 things to know before you go to bed.
Temperatures tomorrow very similar to what we had today, 80 degrees, give or take a little bit. We'll watch for an isolated storm risk. Most areas stay dry until tomorrow evening, and it's even there, it's a small risk. Better chance for a scattered storm or two Saturday, Sunday, low and mid 80s during that time. Early next week, temperature trend is down a little bit. There'll be a better chance of rain coming late this weekend and early next week. But guys, today was pretty darn good, huh?
Spent most of the day outside and loved every minute of it.
Yeah, it was great. Glad more is coming.
That's for sure. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.